So my husband said he was hungry, and I decided to make him his favorite dish. What we're having today is smothered cube steaks, and yes, Kraft macaroni and cheese. Not just any Kraft macaroni and cheese. These are actually the spiral version of the Kraft macaroni and cheese. So what are you going to need? Obviously, you're going to need some cube steak. Now, this is just some steak cutlets that has been ran through a tenderizer to, give it just more of a hamburger-like steak consistency. We have 4 pieces right here. And to season that, you are going to need some adobo. You're also going to need some complete seasoning. You're going to need some onion powder, some garlic powder, some Daniel's Original, and some black magic. Now this black magic is pretty much black pepper and everything else included. For the gravy, I am going to just, spruce up the gravy just a little bit, and I'm going to use some beef and onion. This is actually a Lipton mix. I'll show you how that works if you're unfamiliar. Now for your gravy, you're going to need some flour, obviously, as well as the flour to, dust your steaks with. You're going to need some fresh garlic. You're going to need some chicken stock, beef broth, beef stock, whatever it is that you have in a stock consistency for your gravy, and some onions. Now you can choose how much or how little onions it is that you choose, but he loves onions, so we're going to use 3. These are about medium-sized onions. We will use all 3. And the obvious, the Kraft dinner with the milk and the butter that it takes. So now that we have an understanding, let's go ahead and season up our steaks and head to the stove. Let's get ready to season our meats. Take all these covers off so I don't dirty up my containers. And a little bit of salt. I didn't mention salt, but just a little bit of salt, because the Lipton soup mix that we're going to use in the gravy is kind of high in sodium, so you want to be careful how you judge your steaks, because it'll just be too overpowering with both. All right, so up first we're going to go in with some black magic. Now this is not too high in sodium, so putting a generous amount of this is okay. All right, so let's go in with some garlic powder. Now you want to season to taste. If you want to use any other type of seasonings, be my guest. Whatever it is that you want to do, you can go ahead and do so. Just make sure you season your food. All right, so we're gonna add some onion powder. I'm gonna do both sides while we add it. We are going to go in with just a little bit of the Daniel's Original. Now this I am going to add to the gravy because this does have a very nice flavor to it. And it'll just kick it up just a little bit. But this is, I love this stuff. This stuff is really good. All right, some adobo. Just a little bit because this is pretty salty. She said just a little bit and she's still going. All right, and just a little bit of Himalayan pink salt, just a tad. All right, so we have our cube steak seasoned. Before we got started, I went ahead and added some oil to my cast iron skillet so that we can get all caught up and don't have to wait for that to get hot before we get started. Now you can put all these away. You can probably keep your all-purpose. Now, not all-purpose, complete seasoning. Now you said, Yoke, you're gonna need this, but you didn't add it. No, I did not add this to the steaks because this has herbs in it. And usually when you add herbs to grease or oil, whatever it is that you're frying, it would cause those pieces to burn. So I am gonna add this to the gravy versus adding it to the steak because I don't want those little black pieces on that steak. All right, so let's get our flour. Let's add our flour and then we'll go ahead and add it to the oil. Okay, so we have our steaks. We're gonna add it to the flour. We're just gonna dredge them nice and firm. We'll push the flour into the steak so that it kind of doesn't come off while it's frying. Let's coat that nicely, like such. Let's get another one so we can put 2 in at a time. Again, kind of press the flour onto the steaks. Just a little firm because we don't want to lose none of that flour in our skillet. Okay, like such. Now you will add them right into your hot skillet. And you're not going to bother them. You're just going to let them cook evenly on both sides before you even make them cook evenly on one side before you make any adjustments to them because, again, you don't want that flour to come up. The steaks are pretty thin, they don't take much time. So we're just gonna go ahead and flip these over on the other side. And give it a few minutes as well. So give it about 5 minutes on each side. Okay, so this has been just enough time. You're gonna take your steaks out and you're gonna repeat the process with the rest of your steaks. Okay, let's add these in. Give them some time. So to the same skillet, I poured out probably about 3/4 of the grease, but I did keep all of the drippings off of the steak, and I am going to cook down my onions. These are those those are medium-sized onions. I'm gonna cook these down just a little bit, and then I am going to add my flour and make a quick roux before I add my Lipton soup mix. So you can rough chop them. It doesn't have to be anything really uniform, but not too thin. I recommend that you do not cut them too thin because when you're cooking them, they are going to kind of dissolve. And you want to be able to at least see your onions in your gravy. But you are going to cook them down just a little bit before you add your flour. So while we're waiting for that to catch up, I am going to go ahead and start my water for my noodles. That's the wrong eye. Start my water. We really don't have to pay that any attention. Let's give this a little stir. Break that down just a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and add my garlic. So this is probably about 4 cloves of garlic. Cook that down just a little bit. And add our flour. Now your flour, you're going to gauge it. I'm not going to tell you to just dump all the flour in at one time, but it's going to be probably about equal parts flour to equal parts oil. So just be mindful when the oil starts to kind of dry up a little bit is where I will decide to stop adding the actual flour. As you can see, it's doing just that. It's starting to dry up that oil just a little bit. So you're just going to keep stirring that up until it's completely dried up. And you go in with your chicken stock or broth or whatever it is that you want to use for your gravy. Okay, so as you can see, that flour has pretty much absorbed a lot, let me get this up, of that oil. Let's add just a little bit more because I can still see quite a bit. And just keep stirring it. Don't leave it. At this point, you have to keep minding your pot or your pan, whatever it is that you're cooking your gravy in, just keep minding it. Okay, so as you see, our oil is pretty much all absorbed by that flour. Now I'm going to add my beef and onion, just 1 package of the beef and onion soup mix. This is going to give it color as well as flavor. Add that right into it. Give it a mix until it's all incorporated. You're not going to start really seasoning this until you add your stock. Chicken stock. And we are going to cover the onions because we did use quite a bit of flour. Give that a mix until it's nice and smooth. You just keep adding until it's all incorporated. Okay. Add just a little bit of Danos. We're going to add just a little bit of Black Magic. And a little bit of complete seasoning. Now, all of these are very low in sodium, so you don't have to be too worried about it. Before you add your steaks back, make sure you taste to where it's seasoned to your liking, but this is pretty much done. So you would just add your steaks back, move the onions and gravy aside, and just add that in. And you just cover them up. So now they are smothered. Let's add another one. Cover that up. last one. And you can just let it go. Turn the heat down. And while you're waiting on your rice, your macaroni and cheese, whatever it is you're waiting on, this will just stay warm like that. Of course, can't give him his favorite dish without his favorite drink. So we got us some strawberry Kool-Aid. Drop that in there. Yeah, this is gonna be some ghetto Kool-Aid. Nice and sweet. Like I said, the down south sweet, that's how sweet this gonna be. All right, so we got 2 packages of Kool-Aid, strawberry Kool-Aid to be exact. And we are going to add a whole lot of sugar. So probably about that much. No, that doesn't look enough. About that much. All right, so we are going to add us some water. Add your sugar before you add your water because the sugar is going to pretty much take up space, and you're not going to be able to control the liquid once you do that. Now, we don't drink this all the time. This is just a treat. This is super, super sweet, but it's good. It's good. This is every now and again when I'm feeling like some good ghetto Kool-Aid, I get in here and make some. Yes, so make sure you mix it up very well. Color looks good. All right, I'm making a mess. So this looks about right. You definitely want to use room temperature water because the sugar will not dilute properly. So make sure you use some warm or some room temperature water. To some boiling water, you're going to add your Kraft Dinner Spiral. I'm sure everybody know how to read and follow directions, so I'm not going to get into too much detail on how to make Kraft macaroni and cheese. So you're going to add your boxes to that. It's going to take approximately, now the box tells you a little longer. I think this says 6 to 8 minutes. Well, actually, I was going to say, yeah, 8 minutes for sure is the key point. All right, let that boil. And we are done. So we have our Kraft Dinner macaroni and cheese spiral and smothered cube steaks with a lot of onions. Let's dish this up. Dinner is ready. So this is his favorite meal. Cube steak, smothered cube steaks and onions, and Kraft macaroni and cheese spiral. And of course, a nice sweet cup of Kool-Aid. Oh, that sounds good. Woo! Look at there. So, yo, gang, thank you for joining me on this episode of Yoke Cooks. Again, thank you. So, listen, if you have not yet checked out www.yokegang.com, make sure that you do pick up a t-shirt or a patch, support the channel. Thank you for supporting the channel just by watching this video, and y'all already know I love y'all for life. Peace.